And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
Puts it up. There goes Davis. Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. American Fool is finally the one. American Fool has won the Triple Crown. And Bonds hit play high. It's a deep. It is out of here. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. Unbelievable! A home run for Gibson, and the Tigers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. A shade afternoon. It is June the 10th. It is draft day for the big leaguers. That is good news for baseball. There is not so good news for baseball still. That's to come later on in our program. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford, joined at 12:30 today by our friend J.C. Sherbert, who owns thebigspurt.com, part of the 247 Sports Network, and also joined by Corey McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. We'll talk about the draft and about the negotiations that continue to be ongoing between the Players Association and the league with him. 1:30, hour 2 this afternoon on our program. If you're listening on the Podbean app, thank you. We certainly appreciate that. You can rate us on there as well if you'd like to do so. If we're not very good, 1 star. If we're pretty good, 5 stars.
If you're going to put 1 star, just hold off.
You know, we like to hear it both ways sometimes. But we appreciate you watching as well. If you're listening and not aware that you can watch, you can do that on YouTube. Just type in JB and Goldwater. On Facebook, on Twitter, type in JB and Goldwater. Also, all those options are available by going to jbandgoldwatershow.com. You'll find all of the links there, and you can catch up on former shows and things like that with us. 1 o'clock today, the national anthem, very proudly presented by our friends over at Patriots Point. That will be played, and it will be played forever and ever and ever on our program to start off hour 2, so very much looking forward to that. Darren and I are going to try to do everything we can to get everything we can into our program. There are some tidbits we need to get to, like in racing. Something very significant is going to happen with the car that Bubba Wallace is about to drive, and I'll tell you why that number is very, very significant to what is going to be painted on that car. Some really interesting news that we here in South Carolina would probably really like to know about with Tiger Woods. We'll get to that in just a little while. Zion Williamson might be in some hot water. Probably expected. Yeah, it could be a little bit closer to boiling. An interesting, if you didn't know this, a little tidbit we'll get to on Allen Iverson later on. A couple of former athletes in this state have won some primaries, so we'll tell you who they are. Soccer is back. We'll tell you about that. And we have something really cool we're going to get to here in just a little bit, in this segment, as a matter of fact. 247 Sports released the top 10 college football plays of the decade, last decade. This is their last look back at the former before we start the current, if we start the current, which I think we will. But we have the calls of all 10 of those plays, and there are a couple of plays there that are fairly significant to our state here in South Carolina. So that's coming up in a little bit, and we'll talk to JC about that and the preseason top 25 that has been released on 247 Sports. Talk about the Gamecocks, getting back to practice, all that type of stuff. In just a minute, we're going to get to Reggie Bush. Some thoughts on that, certainly. And you won't want to miss this. Just hold on a second. This wacky rule in Delaware for youth baseball to resume. You won't believe this.
I haven't seen this one. So
Okay.
you've got my interest with that one.
This was sent to me last night because my nephew on Carrie's side of the family lives in Delaware, and he's ready to go.
Okay.
But they're trying to, I think, hurt kids is just what I'm going to say. I don't know what they're doing. So we're going to get to that here in just a minute. But first, let's get to some breaking news. The Southeastern Conference will hold media days virtually in 2020. I think this was a little bit expected. They officially announced it just a little while ago, and it will be held in Atlanta July 13th through the 16th. That's where they'll base this out of. Of course, coaches will all be on video camera. When they do the ADs, when they do commissioners, when they do officiating stuff, everything is going to be virtual this year. But they have not set the dates and times yet for coaches and athletes and all that type of stuff. So that's still to come. But usually every team brings 3 players with their head coach. But it's all going to be virtual this year. No official announcement yet from the ACC. I'm very much anticipating they're going to follow in this lead as well. Why not? Why not? I mean, it is important, but it's also not that important to put, especially in Atlanta. This is the biggest scene in college sports when it comes to media days, besides the national championship. Don't put a couple thousand people in that room. Just forget about it. Let's do it virtually and move on.
There's no need. There's just absolutely no need to have all those people in one spot when you can do it virtually. I mean, how easy is it going to be?
Save a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of media companies saving a bunch of money.
Yeah,
I know that.
And it's always a big get-together. It's always a great time at
Yeah.
the SEC Media Days. Same with the ACC, but the SEC Media Days are a little bit different. It's a more of a scene, I guess, if you want to call it that. But how easy is it going to be for Will Muschamp and 3 of his players to sit wherever in South Carolina behind or in front of a backdrop and just conduct it like a press conference, and it'll be nice and easy and the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's certainly the right thing to do, and that's what they're going to do. So there you go. That is news out of the SEC. 321-8893 is our phone number, 843-321-8893, if you'd like to be a part of our program. All right, I just want, before we get to Reggie Bush and then before we get to the top 10 plays of the last decade in college football, I just want to get this out here. But we don't have to spend long on this. But Darren, this is like the come on man type moment, okay?
Okay.
All right, so this is released yesterday by the Delaware Division of Small Business. What the hell are they doing in athletics? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. And I love the state of Delaware. My half of my wife's family lives there, the other half in Wyoming. 2 states you've probably never been to. I'm going to read this.
I've been to Wyoming. Been to Delaware many times.
Yeah, Delaware's neat, and my family lives up there in Bethany Beach on the coast. Let me read this. Just here we go. Guidelines for the resumption Guidelines for the resumption of competitive or recreational baseball and softball as of 6/15/20. So this will go into effect in 5 days. Okay. The following is modification to the rules for these sports that would allow them to resume June the 15th, with social distancing and other safety procedures observed. All other rules of the sport not listed here are assumed to be in place, subject to the discretion of the individual administrative body. When not actively playing the sport, participants should continue to practice social distancing when not from the same household. Okay, thanks, Division of Small Business in Delaware. We appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so the first one. Home plate umpire will stand behind the pitcher's mound, socially distanced from the pitcher, in order to call balls and strikes. Okay.
That's okay. Home plate umpire.
So they're going to have an umpire in the field.
Yes.
Like T-ball.
Yes.
Almost, okay.
Yes.
All right. You'll stand out there. You'll call. Okay. I can go with that.
Can we change his name to not home plate umpire?
Right. He's more just the umpire.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're standing in the middle of the field, you're probably going to call the game by yourself. So, all right. Okay. All right. I got it. No problem. Probably going to miss a couple balls and strikes, but it's okay. We're going to be able to play. I'm just going to read the rest of this.
You're fired up.
Oh, this is just stupid. I'm going to get to I'm saving the best for last. Spectators are permitted under the gathering rules in place, which can be found here. Okay, gathering rules, stay far apart unless you're family. We get all that. Individual teams should use their own set of baseballs or softballs. well, okay.
So, like, if you hit a grounder to short, then I flip that ball somewhere else,
So-
and I take a different
Yeah,
ball
so
and throw
what?
it to first?
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. No spitting, chewing gum, or sunflower seeds. Okay, you got to live with it. Sucks, but you got to live with it.
They're kids.
Fine.
That's fine.
That's fine. No community water cooler. No problem. Got it. Base coaches should distance themselves from base runners, players, and umpires in the field of play. Pretty easy. They stand in a box anyways down the line. Okay. Distancing in the dugouts and in the stands. Right. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
To the best of your ability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Base coaches should distance from base runners, players, and umpires in the field. Did I already read that? I already read that. Equipment. Bats, gloves, catcher's gear, etc. should not be shared between players. Everybody brings their own equipment.
You got your own
anyways.
stuff.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay. Wait, what? No stealing of second base is permitted. Why? Oh, so that the first baseman can be socially distanced from holding runners on first base. First baseman should be 6 feet away from the runner.
So you're not allowed to hold somebody on, and because of that, you're also not allowed to steal.
Okay, but let me ask you a follow-up question here.
Uh-huh.
What happens if there's a play at any base? What if there's a ground ball and they throw it to first and the runner happens to be within 6 feet because he has to touch the same bag that the first baseman has to touch? Or maybe that happens at second. Or, my God, it might happen at third. Oh, my God, it could happen at home plate.
What about if the ball drifts down the line toward the plate and the first baseman lunges into the line and you collide with the base runner?
I mean, there's going to be a play at the plate. Don't tag him. Stay 6 feet away. You would have had him. We'll call him. We'll give you the out. Oh, God. All right. Final one. Are you ready?
Yep.
Don't fall out of your chair. I need you. A catcher should be kept at least 6 feet from the batter. If this is not possible, a catcher should not be used.
Well, good thing you can't steal second if you don't have a catcher.
What in the Sam hell is going on in Delaware?
So you put like a net back there?
Holy moly, Darren. Okay, so I'm going to make my guy. Okay, just remember, pitcher's mounds, they are the distance that is comparable to the strength of the age of the athlete. All right? It goes up from there.
Yep.
45 feet, 50 feet, 54 feet. 60 feet, 6 inches. We're on the big field now. You're going to tell somebody who's throwing 60 feet he needs to throw 66 now?
Well, you can't. It doesn't work like that.
No. You're gonna blow out arms all over the state. Oh, yeah, I can't make it that far. Well, we're going to have to remove the catcher. Well, then who's going to catch the ball?
It can't be a like. How is it going to be a strike if the ball still has to carry
Holy
6
moly.
more feet?
Can't use you can't share baseball. So if you have a baseball and it's put in play, all right, then that's your baseball. But if it,
That's my baseball.
I'm just confused here. Like, what if your baseball? What if you hit a guy? I mean, you can't stop all this. Like, you can't do it. So either waiver the kids where they test it and they're negative, or don't play. I mean, this is the dumbest thing I've Delaware, listen to me. Listen to me. Either fix this crap or pull them off the field. Okay? I understand that a lot of people don't know much about the state of Delaware outside of Wayne's World. I get it.
I didn't know Wayne's World was held in Delaware.
Well, remember he's driving through. Hey, we're in Delaware.
Oh, okay.
What do you can't do this. You can't implement these rules. It's impossible. It is impossible. Bases are shared by both teams. It's impossible.
You're 1,000% right. I am just laughing at how fired up you are about a youth baseball rule in Delaware.
Because what are you doing? Darren, I love baseball more than anybody.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes, though, it just isn't going to work. I'd be the last one I'd find every reason to play the game. I've done it. I've done it.
Huh?
I know it's lightning, but it's not that close. We'll play, right? They have metal bats. They'll be fine. Like, let's just play. Rub dirt on it. We'll get out of there. He's got a broken leg. He's got another one. I'm that guy. This is stupid. God. If you see this again, call your congressman. They don't have anything else to do right now.
Yeah. Tell them to put this legislature ahead of everything else for youth baseball in Delaware, and then when they're done with that, maybe they can help with baseball, real baseball.
Keep the catcher away, but if he can't be that far away, don't use him. Well, then who's going to catch the ball? Well, we haven't thought that far ahead yet. No kidding. Oh, man. Oh, golly. Okay, I love the coast of Delaware. If you're from there, I'm not trying to offend you, but these people are idiots. I mean, these people are idiots. Division of Small Business in Delaware. God help you if you own a small business in Delaware.
So does the Youth Baseball League, I guess, fall under the Division of Small Business? Is that why they're the ones?
I don't know. Maybe I guess Recreation does.
Okay.
But whatever. You want to do something more fun now?
That, for me, that was actually pretty humorous.
I mean, I saw this.
It's going to take a lot to be more fun than that.
We've had a long couple of months, man, and I was like, I got to laugh. Like, I have to laugh. And when my wife read this to me last night, because her sister called her, and she's like, you're not going to believe this.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, send me that. I'm going to use that tomorrow. But anyways, 12:16 on the JB and Goldwater show. This isn't serious. This is fun, too, though. And we're going to spice it up so you can remember it. And these are really fun. Last decade, there was a lot of really good plays in football. And today, 247 Sports has released the top 10 plays in the last decade, 2010 through 2019. And so what we've done here is we've gone and we're going to talk to JC about some of this too. We've gone and spliced the audio from each one of these calls, Darren, and we're going to go backwards 10-1 of the top 10 plays in the decade in college football as voted on by 247sports.com. Okay.
Yep.
And a couple of these are very prevalent in our neck of the woods because two of the plays have to do with
our neck of the woods,
South Carolina and Clemson, and I would assume that you could probably guess what plays those are, right?
I would. One of them for sure, and maybe you know which one I'm thinking for sure. One of them for sure is a top 10 play of the decade. One of them is one that lots of people remember. I don't know if it's a top 10 play of the decade in college sports.
Yeah. Well, there's another play in here that I didn't necessarily consider it a top 10 play of the decade, but they did.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start at number 10. Okay? 2016, Central Michigan pulls off a Hail Mary lateral, stunning Oklahoma State.
Rush, stepping up, throwing to Crow, catches the lateral. Here comes Willis racing to the end zone. Touchdown! Unbelievable! Central Michigan does it!
Yeah, that was – and I remember that when I watched the video. It was awesome. The 247 Sports' take, Oklahoma State fell victim to a misinterpreted rule that actually extended the game. And the game should have been over. September 10th, 2016, it was week 2. But what followed was that play, and Central Michigan able to upset the Cowboys about 4 years ago. So that's number 10 on this list here. Number 9, 2015, Georgia Tech blocks a field goal return to beat Florida State.
Come on, I know you want to.
Maybe.
Oh,
Rush,
brutal.
stepping up, throwing.
We're going to have to listen to this one again.
Catches the lateral. Here comes Willis.
Wrong one.
Yeah, I know. We're going to have to listen to this one again.
Touchdown! Unbelievable!
That play was so good it was worthy of a second.
Totally.
All right, number 9, 2015, Georgia Tech blocks a field goal return to beat Florida State.
To remain unbeaten and perhaps a player in the college football playoff
and the 29th consecutive conference win. Blocked, snuffed, rubbed out, erased. And Georgia Tech with an opportunity. Austin still on his feet. One man. You can't believe what just happened. What a time to be alive.
78 yards by Lance Austin. That also snapped Florida State's 28-game winning streak, which a lot of people forgot about that. They remember the play, but Florida State was on a 28-game winning streak, and then that was essentially a walk-off win in football, if you will, 22-16, the final score. Number 8 is interesting. It's 2012. It was in Tuscaloosa, and it was Johnny Manziel. Now, it did fuel A&M to beat Alabama that day, but everybody might remember this play. It was Manziel in the red zone in Tuscaloosa and almost sacked, but not quite.
See if we can nail this one now. I think we got it.
Okay.
Rush, stepping up, throwing to Kroll, catches the lateral.
No.
Here comes Willis. Willis.
Did I go too far?
That's it. That's not it.
Unbelievable.
So you want to know how to butcher a segment?
Yeah.
Let me tell you how.
Somebody, I can hear dials clicking all over the place.
I mean, this. By the way, this is killing me.
It's okay.
No, it's really.
It
I mean,
happens.
it does happen, but it shouldn't happen.
Is this Manziel? Do we have Manziel yet? He's out there somewhere.
He is out there somewhere.
This play
It should be a minute into this thing.
Well, and Bama was number 1 in the country when this happened. A&M actually jumped out to an early 14-0 lead in this game.
No.
We can always come back if we need to.
Have I jumped ahead? Am I one ahead?
Well, it's just the third one on the list.
Snap from Patrick Lewis.
That's the third one on the list.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Let's just do that. So now we're at to 8 or 7.
8.
Boom. 8.
Rush.
You got to be kidding me.
We'll come back to this. We'll try to get this stuff fixed here in just a little bit. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is draft day in Major League Baseball, and looking forward to talking with Corey McCartney about that coming up at 1:30 this afternoon. Some local names in our state, most notably Carmen Majinski in Columbia up at South Carolina, expecting to hear his name called in the first round tonight at some point in time. There's been draft projections for him anywhere from like 16, 17, all the way to the very end of the first round. I don't personally think he's going to get outside of the first round. He's a big right-hander who throws in the mid to upper 90s. And South Carolina's Friday night man is probably going to be gone with a nice signing bonus. But a lot to talk about. I'm interested to hear what the people on TV have to say tonight about the draft and all these changes and stuff like that.
All right. We're going to give this a shot.
Okay.
Number 8.
Hey, Manziel.
Snap from Patrick Lewis. 4-man Alabama rush. Got him. No, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
Can't teach that, can you? And you can't defend that. When you have an opportunity to sack the quarterback, that's a touchdown every time.
They'd hang on and win the game. It was 15-1 in that game, and A&M would upset them 29-24 in Tuscaloosa. Bama's in this list a lot, as a matter of fact.
I can't imagine why.
Good and bad for the Crimson Tide. At number 7, a hit that we all remember. Probably don't need to say much more than that, but Jadeveon Clowney, Vincent Smith, Outback Bowl 2013. South Carolina should have had the football, and they certainly did after this.
Get your head back in the game. A lot of football left to be played. Great time to take a shot right now if you're Michigan. But you have to learn to forget about it when it doesn't go your own way and finish.
Wow. Michigan at the 41. What a hit! Ball's free on the ground. South Carolina deserves to have it, and they do.
Clowney just says, I'll take care of business right here. You give me this long to catch my breath, I'll come off the ball and rock you and get it right back for our offense. It's a power play off the left side, and Clowney ignites himself into the Michigan backfield.
Gene Sapikoff on Sunday will have a top 10 list of the best defensive linemen in the history of South Carolina football. Clemson's will follow on Monday. I've got a feeling Clowney probably going to be at the top of that list, but who is 2 through 10? But that play, people always remember. What they forget sometimes, not necessarily the play before. Right before is when I don't know what the official was looking at. It was not a first down for Michigan. Spurrier argued it to no avail. That happened. The next play, though, Connor Shaw went deep, and Ace Sanders caught it in the back of the end zone, and South Carolina was on their way to a 33-28 win over the Wolverines. At number 6.
That is the play, though, that I don't know if it's one of the best plays of the decade. I mean, it's one that we remember because we're down here, and college football fans in general remember that because his head came off.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a random Outback Bowl.
Oh, it was. So a lot of these games are just random games.
Yeah, it's true.
But that play mattered big time.
It mattered a lot to, yes.
This one, very controversial, and they replayed it, and there was about 6 things that they missed, but somehow it's still upheld. 2015, Miami, 8 lateral miracle to upset Duke.
Give him the 35-yard line with 6 seconds to go.
Might not be a bad plan. Going to be a lot of rugby going on here.
Take it short. Lateral. They practiced that on Wednesday. Time's going to expire on the game, so this either goes or it doesn't. Ball's still alive.
It's hard with the TV call here because you're just kind of waiting and seeing
it. Lateral. Get behind it. Still alive.
Duke doing a nice job staying spacing all over. Oh, he got a block.
Blockers. They got blockers. They've got a lane. 40-yard line. No black shirts between the goal line. Can you believe what you just saw?
The ruling on the field is the touchdown. The play is under review.
And it was reviewed, and somehow they missed a couple of players being down. They missed a block in the back. They missed Miami's players running off the sideline. The play should have been called back, but it upheld. Duke was 22nd in the country at the time, leading 27-24, but Miami wins 30-24. That was number 6.
Number 1, that call is tough from an audio-only standpoint. Number 2, even with video, that was tough, man. It's one of the hardest plays.
You can't call that.
It's one of the hardest plays to call, but he missed. I'm not sure who that was.
You could tell those guys didn't know what to do. They were
no. They didn't know what to do. They clearly were not aware of who was getting the ball and the players that were on the field at the time. The final call, like, do you believe what you just saw or something?
Well, you can't believe this one either. At number 5, 2015, Michigan State returns a fumbled punt to beat Michigan.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game. Unbelievable.
That was unbelievable. That was a 7-12 matchup. Spartans moved to 7-0. Michigan, 12th in the country at the time, dropped to 5-2 on that fumbled snap.
Also a spectacular call, even with the cracked voice. You can hear the difference in those 2 calls right there.
At number 4, it's Deshaun Watson, Hunter Renfrow, 27, national championship.
Be the final play of the college season, perhaps, if Clemson gets a touchdown to win it. If Bama can hold them out, perhaps a field goal attempt for overtime. Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow. Little man makes another enormous play. 1 second remaining.
Amazing. Hunter Renfrow forever in the hearts of Clemson fans. At number 3, 2014 BCS National Championship, Jameis Winston, Kelvin Benjamin.
From the 2-yard line with a timeout, you wonder if Jimbo would go ahead and run it. He's put Winston up under center. No, throw it. End zone, jump ball, touchdown! You know who he went for, number 1.
God, Brent Musburger's good.
He's good. I also feel like
Benjamin.
the better and Brent Musburger lost some money on that pass.
He puts the ball in the air for the 6'5" receiver. That's a mismatch. Chris Davis is a good player. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. They know exactly where this ball is going. Benjamin comes to the inside. The ball is high. He's done that all year.
Which was true. There's a 6-inch difference there. At number 2, it's Tua against Georgia in the national championship.
Youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins! The Crimson Tide will not be denied.
Nice rhyme, Chris. As good as that was for Bama, this one is the top play, and it should be. It was the 2013 Iron Bowl. It was a 57-yard attempt for the Crimson Tide to break a 28-28 tie while they were on the plains against 4th-ranked Auburn, but Chris Davis, standing in the end zone, took it to the house.
And here is a red shirt freshman from Calhoun, Georgia. Very little wind. What small amount there is at his back. Mandel will hold it. Now they've officially made it 57 yards.
Remember, a block kick could go the other way, too. He's got to be careful and get it up.
On the way. No, return by Chris Davis. Davis goes left. Davis gets a block. Davis has another block. Chris Davis. No flags. Touchdown. Auburn. An answered prayer.
Vern Lundquist. Man, special.
That was good stuff.
That was number 1. By the way, that Kelvin Benjamin catch at number 3, you know who he caught it over?
Do not.
Chris Davis.
Yeah, that was part of the call, wasn't it? Yes.
Chris Davis.
Yes.
Chris Davis is part of history on one side and on the other. But
good for you, buddy.
In this list, number 1, and that was sensational. That's the 247 Sports Top 10 Plays list of the last decade. Speaking of 247 Sports, J.C. Sherbert. He owns thebigspur.com. They're part of that network. He'll join us next when we return.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
One of these drinks is gonna cloud my memory.
Honey, Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Cisco, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family-style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
Listen to this station on your smartphone. Download the app now on Google Play Store.
What's up, everybody? This is Patrick Davis, and you're listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
All right, 12:36. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, Wednesday afternoon, June the 10th. Time for JC Sherbert, owner of the BigSpur.com, part of the 247 Sports Network. What's up, man?
Hey, guys. Good to be with you today.
Yes, sir. You too. Sorry we're a little bit late. We were actually playing the calls of the top 10 playlist from the last decade as published today by 247 Sports. Did you see that list?
Was it for South Carolina, or was it
no,
just in general?
Yeah, just in general. All across college football last decade. And they had Chris Davis's kick return at number 1. But they did have Clowney in there at 7. They had Hunter Renfro's catch in there at number 4.
I'm a fan of all those plays. I thought the Renfro catch was a brilliant play design. And if you notice, and I'll go back to the 2010 Alabama-South Carolina game. Alabama sometimes is susceptible to those pick plays. The first touchdown the Gamecock scored that day in 2010 was a screen pass, but it was basically a pick, and Spurrier was really good at setting this up. And the story I was told was he practiced it all week. You know, it was one of his ball plays. And he's like, well, yeah, this is going to work. This is going to work, you know. And sure enough, there they go. Well, we're going to run it. We're going to run it. And it worked. It was a touchdown, and that kind of set the tone for that day. But big fan of that. Big fan of the Clowney hit. Didn't like the fact that the ACC head officials or whoever, because that's when they put in the targeting during the offseason, you know, said it would have been targeting. It was that hit was clean as a whistle.
Wasn't even,
I mean, it was
not close
violent,
to targeting. But
it was a very clean hit, and it was unbelievable. And you know, look, I think the kick six probably deserves to be numbered. That was one of the most improbable things that has happened in college football. And unfortunately for me, you know what's crazy about those 3 plays is I only saw the Renfro one live on TV. I was in California working. I was a national recruiting analyst for 24/7 Sports at the time, the day of the Clowney hit. I actually heard that on ESPN radio.
Wow.
I was in the car going to a practice. And then the kick six, I was at the 2013 Clemson-South Carolina game. And, of course, we were kind of monitoring what was going on in the Iron Bowl because South Carolina had a chance to sneak down to Atlanta. It didn't happen, but they had a chance to do that. And all of a sudden people around me were like, shoot, Auburn won. And then, of course, I saw how they did it later. And it's one of the most iconic plays I think you could think of in the history of the game. I mean, I'll go back and watch it sometimes, just listen to the radio call and just to see the joy on the face of the Auburn people, you know, to win that game. That was sort of unlikely. And Alabama was undefeated coming into that ball game. Bama was up by a touchdown, I think 2 touchdowns at one point, lined up for the game-winning field goal. And they're like, well, overtime, you take your shot. And then to have it turn like that was simply unbelievable.
I've heard radio calls for that one a couple times. Rod Bramblett was fantastic.
Tremendous.
And Adam Amin had the national call. How was the radio call for the Clowney hit?
all of a sudden you just heard this silence. And then, oh! And it's like, Clowney, oh my God, I don't think he said, "Oh my God," but it was.
I wonder who
something
called
like that. But there was radio silence, and the crowd was cheering because right before that you had all the they were sitting there just talking about what a bad call that was by the ref. One of the most terrible spots in the history of college football.
Oh my God, brutal.
And they were talking about it, and Gamecocks were sort of losing momentum, and then that happened, and they turned it around and ended up still needing a great drive, one of the most underrated drives, I think, because of that hit in that game, that drive when that Connor started it and then Dylan Thompson comes in and throws that pass to Bruce Ellington to win the game. I mean, it was really an unbelievable finish, but I called it all on ESPN radio. That was a good call. I still kind of like I guess it was Mike Tirico and John Gruden on the national
TV
call.
one, yeah.
Todd Ellis, I mean, look, I stopped complaining about Todd Ellis a long time ago, but, sometimes, his calls aren't necessarily what you call iconic.
No.
I think he just kind of screamed, too, during it.
Yeah.
Oh, Clowney with monstrous hit. Sometimes Todd's like, he's at the 65, the 70. Oh, kick your dog. Oh.
I know.
It's a pretty good impersonation right there.
Todd he gets lost in the moment sometimes, and you wonder what moment that is. But
and at this point, I'm fine with it because I'm like, it really does. I mean, there's no more Larry Munsons out there. I mean, if this were a parallel universe and things have worked out, and my good friend Mike Morgan had gotten that call, I'd still care, about the iconic calls. And when Mike was calling baseball and basketball, I cared. But at this point, just you look across college football, it's not like you have these iconic announcers. So what you want is a guy that's kind of, a homer for your team and that loves your team. And, you're not looking to win any, awards or anything with it. It's kind of funny at this point, it's like, I think, you think of the Missouri game 2 years ago that they won during the monsoon, and Kyle Markway is kind of an older player. He's 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And catches that brilliant pass. I mean, from Scarnecchia, and sets up the field goal, and Todd's like, he's down to the 21 years old.
Yeah.
And,
well,
I'm not kidding you. You can go back and check it out. Oh, kick your dog. I don't think he's ever said kick your dog. I don't want to be accused of Todd Ellis of animal cruelty. That wouldn't be. I don't think he's ever said that, but it'd still be funny if one day he did.
I wrote that down as soon as you said it. I wrote it down thinking that'd be a funny title for the show, and then I was like, that's probably not going to fly.
Peter would be all over
I'm a big animal lover. I'm a big animal lover too. I mean, I'm like, since I've had my dog and now I've got these turtles, I've kind of become, sort of soft. I'm not a PETA guy though, because I don't buy their argument about the gamecock. I just don't think, because I used to live in a town where there's a big, large chicken processing plant, okay? And they take these chickens and they pack them into this big truck, and they're sitting there, their feathers are flying everywhere. And then how we get our delicious chicken is they put it on a conveyor belt and they boil them in water so their feathers comes off. They're still alive, and then they just chop their heads off. And then they get packaged and it's delicious. So if you're a chicken, okay, all right, if you really think about the humanity here. Would you rather go out like that, or would you rather fight to the death in Mexico?
Yeah, probably Mexico. You have better
fight for the death.
Yeah, no doubt.
Fight to the death.
You have a better chance, no doubt.
There are vegans listening to the show who just drove off the road.
You want to be an alarm clock for somebody and eventually get your neck wrung because you get too old or you're too loud out on some farm? Or do you want to go fight to the death in Mexico? I'm choosing Mexico every time, folks. I'm sorry.
That's right. Well,
the PETA people should understand that.
They should.
If they cared about animals.
That's right.
They would understand that. Now, dog fighting and all that completely off limits.
Yeah. I'm not a no.
Dog fighting, because of the nature of the animal, man. What the other things that happen to these animals? Yeah, maybe I'm a little, partial towards that. Hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. There, I don't need any PETA trouble.
I saw a bunch of cat fights in college. If that makes Anybody happy?
So did I.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah. No cats were harmed, if that makes sense. On Twitter at JC Sherbert. JC, let's slide to the right a little bit here. And yesterday we talked about, we're trying to slide out of this chaos we've been in for the last few weeks. I don't know that we'll ever get out of it, but we're at least trying to reintroduce sports to the world a little bit. And luckily, per your retweet yesterday, which I picked up and implemented into our program, 247 Sports has released their top 25 preseason for the 2020 season. And I found some interesting notes on here. First and foremost, 1 and 2 to me are interchangeable. I mean, Ohio State, Clemson, right? Take your pick. And I would probably lean towards Clemson just because I think they're a little bit better up front on defense, but we don't really know that to be true yet. That was the first thing I think Darren and I kind of talked about yesterday. But Florida continues to be a trendy pick to maybe get into the college football playoff. They're at 6 in this list here. I don't know. I'm not totally buying in on that yet with Florida, man. I think they've got their schedule sets up nice, but I also think they have some hiccup games that they better be very careful with, including that game to Knoxville right before they play Carolina.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I wasn't ready to buy Florida after the first year under Mullen because I didn't think, that you look at the team. They lost to Kentucky at home for the first time in like 30 years. Missouri beat them soundly at home. Their third loss, of course, was to Georgia. That game wasn't close after halftime. I wasn't sold on Felipe Franks. They did come back and beat the Gamecocks, which is probably the most gut-wrenching loss of the Will Muschamp era, and there have been several. And then they beat, like, Idaho. They beat a bad Florida State team. And then they beat a Michigan team that was, thinking about the playoff that ended up in the Peach Bowl that really didn't care. And Michigan had sort of rubbed Florida's nose in it the last 2 times they had played. So they were ready for that. And I was actually at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta the day after the Peach Bowl, and I saw Florida fans walking around, kind of smiles on their face, but Michigan fans didn't care. They were like, "Oh, well, it's all right. We just got to beat Ohio State, And so I don't know how. So to me, that was a little overrated. Then you had the Miami debacle where they almost lost to what ended up being a terrible Miami team.
Mm-hmm.
But as the year went on, Cal Trask came in. I mean, they just won. And that's they're 21-5. All of a sudden, you look up, they're 21-5. They're not overly impressive. They're not the Urban Meyer Gators or the Steve Spurrier Gators where they're just going to line up and out-athlete you and blow you out. But they find ways to win football games. I mean, the Kentucky game last year, South Carolina. You can go on and on as far as how that football team just finds ways to win, and that's something, quite frankly, under Muschamp and to a lesser extent under McElwain. Because he did win his first 2 years, but they weren't really a find a way to win team. They were a team that when you got them down, they sort of hung their head and, they just didn't compete, and I think of some of those Georgia games they played, where they would either be up or they'd be down. And so I think that's one thing he's instilled in them. And so am I willing to rank them number 6 in the country? No. Because I think they're talented. I think they're athletic. They're fast. I still think their defense is continuing to erode. I've never been a Todd Grantham guy.
Yeah,
I think it's feast or famine with his defenses. He's either going to shut you completely down and you're going to have a hard day, or you're going to go up and down the field on him. Now, South Carolina with Brian McClendon calling the plays is the exception because obviously he's on the fourth quarter of the last 2 years. But against other teams, I've noticed that. So. Am I ready to say they're 6? No. Do I think they could have a really good year? Yeah. Would I say they're the favorites in the East over Georgia? No, but, Georgia does have Bama from the other – they play Bama and Auburn from the other division. Florida, I think, has LSU and then somebody else they should beat. I think it's maybe Arkansas. I'm not quite sure. So the schedule is favorable, and they do have an opportunity. I like Trask a lot. I have questions as far as who's going to replace their very good receivers they had, and we'll see kind of how they put some more pieces in place on that defense. But it's, last off season, I would have been like, definitely no, Florida's going to be a 7-5, 8-4 football team. But they made kind of believers out of me with the way they just find a way to win. 21-5 the last 2 years with a team that was just sort of so-so. I think is pretty impressive. And so we'll see if that can continue.
Who do you think, and we're talking with J.C. Sherbert, owner of the Big Spur, in that 247 preseason top 25, who's the team getting the most love that shouldn't be? Is it Florida? Is it North Carolina?
Notre Dame.
Yeah, or Notre Dame?
Notre Dame's getting a lot of love nationally.
They are. They're getting a ton.
Of course, they're talking playoffs and stuff. So I don't know.
We've seen this before. Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna. I don't know if that's gonna happen. But I think I think Tennessee is a pretty trendy team. And I think with Tennessee and North Carolina both is we're going to learn about them pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina opens. I don't know who scheduled it at UCF.
Right.
And then they've got a game in Atlanta, the kickoff game, the next weekend, which is a little odd. That's usually a week 1 matchup, but it's week 2 this year against Auburn. Then they play James Madison, which I know people are saying, oh, that's a win. Well, maybe not. James Madison's pretty good, for a 1AA team, or FCS as they call it. And then after that, they've got Georgia Tech, which I think they'll beat, and then they got Virginia and Virginia Tech back to back.
Right.
And one in Charlottesville, and then the Hokies come to Chapel Hill, and the Hokies typically play pretty well in Chapel Hill. And so I think when you look at that first cluster of games, we're going to know a lot about North Carolina. We're going to know is this going to be a team that in year 2 under Mac Brown's going to, still – because, look, their good recruiting class is this recruiting class, okay? It's the 2021 class. They're not going to be on campus. I mean, they can be in the top 5 all they want. Those players don't help them this year. So are we going to see them, again, be like a 7-6 team that hangs in the balance? Or are they going to be able to take a next step? Are they going to be able to beat UCF on the road? Are they going to be able to beat an Auburn in Atlanta? And at that point, and I think a lot of the staff they put together up there, I think they have 2 good coordinators. I don't think Mac Brown's lost his recruiting mojo or his mojo in general. I think he's fired up for now and ready to go. And I think that if you think about that division, the last 7 years, 7 different teams have won it. So there is an ability and an opportunity for somebody over there to kind of step up. And North Carolina's kind of a trendy pick. I like Sam Howell a lot. I think he's a battler. He's a tough kid. He can throw. He can run. And I like their offense. So maybe they will, but I think we'll learn. I think the same thing's true with Tennessee. As you mentioned, that Florida game is in September, and that's always kind of a bugaboo for them. But they also got to go to Norman, Oklahoma, and play Oklahoma. And, I don't know who keeps scheduling Oklahoma up there, but, if my permanent opponent in the East from the West was Alabama, I don't think I'd schedule anybody but like Chattanooga,
right.
Charlotte.
Right.
Does Asheville have a football program? Let's schedule Charleston Southern. I just don't know if I'm Tennessee. I keep doing this, but they do. And so they got to go play Oklahoma. And, that's a measuring stick kind of game for them. And so we'll see, how that turns out. Because if they're sitting there at 2-3 losses early on, and then they got Georgia later in the year, it may not be another 8-5 with a big finish. For years, Tennessee's schedule's been front-loaded. And last year, the winning of the 6 straight games, that was because they weren't really playing anybody good.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were lucky to beat Indiana in the bowl. So, we're going to kind of see where Tennessee's at and North Carolina both early on, in my opinion, provided the schedule's played as normal. But, I don't even know that's – I think I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, barring something crazy coming down the pipe.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting with Tennessee. Like, I look at this and think, okay, we're not going to really know who Tennessee is until week 4 when Florida comes to town, unless they go to Norman and either beat them or play really well. Then you kind of go, okay, well, this team's pretty good. And then very similar with North Carolina, I'm with you. I mean, you got to go to Central Florida to open the year on a Friday night. That's not easy. And then you got Auburn in a neutral site game. But I'll give you the stretch here that I think is going to really determine the year for North Carolina, and I don't think it's either one of those 2 games because neither one of those 2 teams plays in the ACC. It's the month of October where 3 of 4 games are on the road and they don't have an off week, and 3 of those 4 at Virginia, at Duke, at Miami. Now none of those places, JC, are Auburn or Clemson. They do get Virginia Tech at home. You mentioned that a minute ago. They're not they're not going to historically very challenging venues to play in on the road, but this has been a toss-up division for the last 7 years, and 3 of 4 weeks on the road, Virginia, Duke, and Miami, and then you got Virginia Tech in there as well without an off week. There's no reason to think that there's not a hiccup in there, at least one, if not two, for North Carolina after the start they might come out with against Auburn and Central Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think Virginia is going to continue to play solid football under Bronco Mendenhall. That game is up there, like you said. That's a pretty competitive series as well. And then Virginia Tech, they've settled on a quarterback. They sort of had a Tennessee-type turnaround last year too. And you mentioned Duke. I mean, under David Cutcliffe, you can never count them out in a game. I mean, they beat Virginia Tech by 35 last year on the road.
Right.
And then they beat Miami at the end too. And they didn't have a very good football team. So you can never – and that's a rivalry and all that. So you can never count them out. So I agree with you. I think when you're looking at it in terms of that division and can the Tar Heels, make their way to the top, that could be a defining stretch. And also if they do drop the UCF and Auburn game and then they do struggle to get to 500 during that stretch and drop a couple more, are the wheels going to fall off? Is it going to be – kind of a good year two and then a good year one and then the year two where they sort of underperform relative to expectations? And I don't know the answer. I think North Carolina's a good team. I just think that, like you said, in that division, it's a toss-up. I think they're facing, a UCF team that's going to be hungry to beat them early on, and I think that, Auburn's Auburn. Auburn's obviously got more talent than North Carolina, and it's in Atlanta and all that. So, North Carolina's an intriguing story in terms of just kind of how their schedule sets up and how the season could possibly go. And if they're anything like last year's team, you're probably looking at a lot of close games that could go either way. And sometimes those go your way and sometimes they don't. So we'll see what happens.
Well, these based on the preseason rankings by 247 Sports, we didn't even get this in yesterday, Darren, but based on those, looking at North Carolina's schedule, they'll open the season with Central Florida, who's actually ranked 20th. North Carolina, of course, is 19th. And then the following week, Auburn at number 13. Now those things can change, certainly, but yeah, 2 top 20 teams to open the year from North Carolina. I want to ask him about one more team in this list here. 16, Southern Cal. We know that Clay Helton has kind of been on what we would say is the hot seat for the last couple of years, but Graham Harrell's calling plays. Todd Orlando's running the defense. They do have a bunch of talent out there. I mean, I don't think last year they recruited incredibly well, maybe at the level that we usually expect them to, but they do have some guys who can play, including their quarterback Slovis. Are they a spoiler in the Pac-12?
Yeah, I mean, they have ball players, and I think that, when you look at the air raid offenses sometimes when you're implementing them, and I go back, I'll take you all the way back to 2000 at Oklahoma. Mike Leach came in, was the OC in '99. They were 3-8 the year before. I think they went 7-5, 8-5, something like 7-5 maybe, and won the Independence Bowl. And then the next year they won the national championship. And I think sometimes in year two in an offense like that, where timing really matters, and you're in an entire off season with and I don't know obviously what they've been doing during the pandemic and all. But, they're going to have time to get their timing down again, I think, with Clovis settled in at quarterback and then kind of a new, more aggressive. Todd Orlando's sort of he's similar to Todd Grantham in the sense that his system is kind of the same, multiple fronts, very aggressive, things like that. I don't know that he's, the hit or miss that Todd Grantham's been. I think if he's in the SEC, we may feel that way. But he's a good DC. I think that Big 12 teams cycle through defensive coordinators like crazy. And I don't think it was really on him, what happened at Texas. So that's intriguing to me too. And anytime you got a lot of great athletes and the Pac-12, unlike the Big 12, if you play defense in that league, you can stop people. I mean, it's not a situation where, like in the Big 12, it's just all basketball and turf and you better outscore because everybody's got this great offense, or really everybody's got a terrible defense. You can stop people. So that's intriguing to me. Now, they open up the season with Alabama. And, Alabama's going to be good yet again, and all that. And so, that's going to be a measuring stick. Does the Trojans go in? Can they pull the upset first and foremost? Will they put a lot of points on the board and scare the bejesus out of the Crimson Tide? What will the defense look like against Bama's offense, which, they're still going to kind of be the same, do the same types of things, but, they got a new quarterback, no more Tua and all that good stuff. So there's some questions there. And I think it's easy to look at that roster every year and say, well, this could be the year they break through. But kind of like Texas A&M, they don't seem to have been able to do it for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the thing. I think the Pac-12 needs Southern Cal, for lack of a better term, to be really good this year. And hopefully, that'll happen. But it's, it's one of those things that we just have to wait and see. I like the Pac-12 because there is a lot of parity. Unlike the ACC, which is basically one good team and then, 13 other ones. And Clemson dominates. The Pac-12, they have good football teams. People are like, that's a terrible league. No, they just don't have a dominant team. You look at Utah and Oregon last year, pretty good football teams, and so I think that, if you're looking at it in terms of that league and what's best for it, it would be best, for the Trojans to kind of run through it and get back to prominence. But, I think it's easier said than done just because, there are some other good football teams out there.
The other team, aside from Southern Cal, that Jamie and I have kind of been going back and forth on is Texas. Is this a year that Texas can reassert themselves as Texas?
Well, that's another one. You throw those guys in with A&M. I think Texas. I think there's two things at play in the Big 12. I think Texas and Oklahoma both, to a certain extent, have been hurt by the style of play. And people are like, Oklahoma, are you crazy? They're always in the playoff. Yeah, because they're the best of the bunch. But you look and see when they get to the playoff, it's not competitive most of the time. I mean, there is a significant difference between the way they play the Big 12 and then when they get to a playoff game against a Clemson or an Alabama or an LSU last year, which was not pretty. And I think those two schools need to sit there and really give a hard bunch of thought to, hey, we're Texas and Oklahoma. We dominated this group for years. We were the cream of the crop, so to speak. We did it by being bigger, more physical, faster, better defensively than most of these teams we play. And I think Tom Herman and Lincoln Riley both offensively, even though it's kind of a modern spread offense that they run, they do have some power runs, and their offenses have gotten more physical. It's just more defense. And I think at some point, the key to turning Texas around is to go back to beating Texas and saying, look, we have better athletes across the board defensively. We have a better running back than you do. We have a better offensive line than you do. We're going to run the football, and we're going to protect our defense, and then you're going to go 3 and out within 10 seconds, and then we're going to drag you all over the field. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key. And I think Tom Herman has that type of mindset. I just think it's difficult when you're going up against, Pyrotechnic University, number 1, number 2, and number 3 each and every week. When you play Oklahoma State and the Baylors of the world and the freaking even TCU now runs something like that. But I think that's the key at Texas is to get back to being Texas. And not, I always said that Baylor made Oklahoma and Texas be Baylor. Or Baylor and Texas Tech made Oklahoma and Texas be Baylor and Texas Tech, not the other way around, which is rare. Yeah. And I think it's hurt that league. It's fun football to watch, but, once these teams get to the playoffs, it's just it's a different story.
No doubt. And throw Oklahoma State in there as well. All right, before we let you go, just about a minute left here or so, man, wanted to get your thoughts on how Coach Muschamp has dealt with this situation. It's obviously all across the country, but last Friday we saw him with his football team marching through Columbia. Everything seems to be in high gear up there. They're on the same page, it appears, in the Gamecock football program. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Will Muschamp's a guy that, nobody's ever said anything negative about him in terms of, him caring about his players or having a good relationship with his players. He's a player's coach, they love him, he loves them, and I thought that was the right thing to do. You got to stand with your players on the field and off the field, and I had no problem with the protest and that him being a part of it or anything like that, nor should anybody else that cares about the University of South Carolina or that cares about, justice in our world. I think that it was, the right message to send. I think, he caught some flack by not, releasing a big statement or whatever, but kind of like he said in his press availability the other day, he's like, I could have put something on social media, but I think action is what we need. And he took action. So good for him. Will Muschamp does an awful lot right, as the head coach at South Carolina and has as a head coach at both schools in the SEC. It's just Saturdays.
Yeah.
Or if they play on Thursday or whenever, it's just the what happens on game day, and it's baffling, and there's another set of 12 of them coming up. So, hopefully that turns around, but I thought the move was outstanding. And, I appreciate people that take action rather than just, use lip service for certain situations.
Clemson has just announced, I think there was a rumor of it maybe, that the players would be having some form of protest or march. So the football team is going to lead that, I believe, this weekend. We had Reggie Merriweather on yesterday who said that was probably we'll hear some news out of Clemson and relating to the players and what they're going to do. So I just saw that on the Clemson side of the 247 Sports. So I don't think that surprises you, JC, or anyone, that the players at Clemson are now doing this as well.
Yeah, and that's good too. I think Clemson, obviously with some of the stuff that's come out has a different set of circumstances in terms of, maybe nipping some things in the bud. I think that institutionally they have some decisions to make, and I think that, in terms of the building, some of the buildings up there, the Honors College or whatever. And look, there's buildings like that at South Carolina too. They're all over the South. So, if we're going to start changing them, now's the time to do it. And so I think there's some decisions to be made, but I'm glad to see, I don't think that because of any of this, Clemson's football program deserved to fall apart or anything like that. Nor do I think we need to, run Dabo Swinney out of town or whatever. I think that, the key with anything like this is listening and understanding and supporting. And I'm glad to see them do that as well. I think that'll go a long way to kind of, I think, put some of this, it's a forward-looking thing, and put the anxiety and the animosity behind them, and then kind of look forward to a productive conversation about a brighter future.
It's always a productive conversation with you, man. We appreciate all of your time today, certainly. Looking forward to next Wednesday. I'll actually be out next week. I'll be gone, but Darren and whoever, somebody else will be in this seat as well, and I know they'll be looking forward to having you back then. And then I'll catch up with you in a couple weeks, okay?
Outstanding, guys. I appreciate it, man.
Always. Thank you.
Soon, man.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it. JC Sherbert, owner of thebigspur.com, at JC Sherbert on Twitter. All right, late timeout. National Anthem coming up on the JB and Goldwater Show.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Cisco, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
Patriots Point proudly presents the national anthem of the United States of America.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, 111, welcome back. The Patriots Point National Anthem airing on a Wednesday afternoon. Find our friends over in Mount Pleasant at Patriots Point as one of the neatest places that you can visit in the state of South Carolina and across the country. If you like history and honoring those that have fought for all of us, that's where you want to go. Go see the Laffey, the Clam-of-Gore, the Vietnam War exhibit, of course, the USS Yorktown, which sits on essentially the skyline of the coast over there, especially when you go over the bridge. We really appreciate everybody at Patriots Point, our friend Chris Half and everybody over there. We really appreciate what they do for us, and we're going to give some tickets away soon. Hopefully by the end of this week. I think we'll be able to do a family 4-pack by the end of this week.
2 more days.
Yeah, so either tomorrow or Friday. And somebody will be able to win that and go over there and take a peek around. And eventually Darren and I are going to do some fun stuff over there with them and everything. But we really appreciate Patriots Point. We hope you do as well. PatriotsPoint.org for more information. All right, 843-321-8893 is our phone number, 843-321-8893. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can watch us there by typing in JB and Goldwater, listening, of course, on the Podbean app. He's at Darren Goldwater on Twitter. I am at Sports Radio JB. All right, got a few notes we want to get to here, kind of run through some of this stuff. Corey McCartney set to join us in a little less than 20 minutes. So we're going to do our best to try to squeeze everything we can here in. The MLS is back. They will begin on July the 8th. All 26 teams in the MLS will play in Orlando, which is becoming the sports hub for America. The NBA is down there. MLS will be down there. It will be a 26-team tournament, and about 3 matches per day will be played. This I did find interesting. The tournament will feature matches almost every day starting at 9 a.m., 8 p.m., and 10:30 p.m. Very interesting. Those start times, yeah. 9 a.m., 8 p.m., 10:30 p.m. held at ESPN's Wide World of Sports complex at the Walt Disney World Resort.
It's interesting that it's not.
I'm assuming TV. So
well, probably TV. Those are the windows. B, the NBA is going to be down at Disney World. MLS is down at Disney World. The sports side of what Disney World is doing is going to help them reopen as Disney World as well, because this is a good way to test how you can handle things. Now it'll be very contained for the athletes and for the professional sports,
right?
So it'll be much easier to monitor everything. But it's a good way for Disney World to test. Let's see how we can open back up.
Yeah, and Disney owns ESPN, and ESPN, they're magically right there.
Funny how that works out. The announcers, though, do not expect, and I'm assuming this is the same for the MLS. I don't know. NBA-wise, don't expect to see announcers on site. Maybe when they get to the playoff portion of it, they'll be down on site, but don't expect them to be on site.
Okay. Allen Iverson not on the court, but check this out. He last played in 2010, Darren. Allen Iverson, whom I saw in a casino a few years ago in Cherokee, North Carolina.
That's right. I remember that story.
Yeah. All right. He just turned 45, okay? So every year he receives $800,000 from Reebok, from his initial. So he initially had a deal with Reebok that was 10 years, $50 million. All right. And from everything I've heard, that, including the amount of money he made in the NBA, he somehow found a way to blow all this cash, which I just find impossible. But I guess people do it, like him and Tyson and others. But he does receive an $800,000 check every year from Reebok as part of his initial deal. Reebok was like, we're coming back with Allen Iverson and the whole 9 yards, okay?
So if you blow your money, at least you got another $800K coming your way.
Every year, yeah, $800,000. Well, as part of his deal, they backloaded an additional lump sum of cash that he will receive in 2030. $32 million.
Wow.
He'll be 55 years old in 2030, and he will receive a check, one check, minus taxes, $32 million from Reebok. So, Allen, you got 10 more years, and then you get a check for $32 million.
I mean, if he's really struggling financially, he could go to Reebok and say, hey, buddy, instead of 32, what if you just hook me up with like 25 today?
Let's settle it. Yeah,
let's compromise here because I need money, and you don't want to give me 32, so let's say 25 and call it a day.
Is that not amazing?
It is.
That is amazing. Why? I don't know why they did that. Why? I don't understand that. I mean,
competing with Nike, they needed their star.
Well, the Reebok brand is certainly not what it was. Maybe it'll be different in 10 years, but I mean,
that was part of it though.
And like, don't you kind of wonder if like Reebok is looking at this going, we're going to have to write a $32 million check in 2030. I wonder if he'll settle for 20 now.
Yeah.
Let's save $12 million on this.
I would try. Absolutely, I would try. I don't know if AI would be cool with that. I also didn't realize how good of a quarterback Allen Iverson was coming out of high school.
I didn't either.
I saw something just floating around, one of those high school, it wasn't Huddle back then, but one of those high school tapes. And apparently he was one of the best quarterbacks, I want to say the Virginia area, Virginia, D.C., but obviously chose basketball, and the rest was history.
The rest is history. The answer. He was he was actually he was in the Jordan documentary a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So, and he could play. He was really, really good. He's not any taller than I am, really.
He could handle it.
Oh, maybe the best I've ever seen, actually, at that.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of our era, as good as we've seen someone who can handle the ball.
No doubt. No doubt. A couple of former in-state athletes are now elected politicians as of last night. Congratulations to former College of Charleston basketball player Jermaine Johnson. He was elected the Democratic representative for SC House District 80, which means he'll go to November to see who's officially going to represent that district there. And also former wide receiver Mo Brown, who played for Steve Spurrier between 2006 and 2009. Mo and I had a bunch of classes together, actually, at South Carolina. He was elected the Democratic winner in the 5th District, which is up there around Rock Hill. So congratulations to Mo Brown and Jermaine Johnson, a couple of former in-state athletes now testing the waters of politics.
I didn't realize that Jermaine Johnson was running until recently, actually.
Yeah.
I remember him well as a player at the College of Charleston. And I think he was on with Scott Eisberg, one of those Scotty's Corner.
He was.
Him and I don't know if Bobby, who's does them a lot. I don't know if Bobby was on that
That's
episode
Scotty's,
as well.
That's Scotty's sidekick, right, Bobby?
Yeah.
That Bobby guy?
Yeah. Sometimes Scotty's Bobby's sidekick. Sometimes Bobby is Scotty's sidekick. But he was also pretty good on that, just talking about the college and some of the racial stuff, and good for him, man. I love to see that a former athlete from right here has transitioned this way, and not only transitioned into it, but he's won.
They've won. Yeah, and they're really good guys. They're a really good guy. I know Mo. I mean, I haven't seen him in a long time, but Mo is a great guy, and I know Coach Spurrier was really supportive of his efforts and stuff like that. So congratulations to those two guys. All right, when they race in Martinsville, something very interesting is going to happen. So Bubba Wallace is a black NASCAR driver, and he runs the 43 car, and his car will be painted black with hashtag Black Lives Matter on the side of it, also with a white fist and a black fist interlocking on the hood of the car. Well, for people that don't realize this, Bubba Wallace drives the 43 car, which is formerly that number of Richard Petty, who raced in an era when there were no black NASCAR drivers
at all
or anything like that. So this is, I think this is a really big deal for the sport, Darren. I'm not sure. I'll have to text Bobby and see. He always has Rafe Judd on his program. We're going to give Bobby a free plug here, our friend who hosts Fan Talk every day on ESPN Radio. I'm not sure if he's already had Rafe yet this week, but if he hasn't, I am interested to hear Rafe Judd's comments on this, because this is a big deal in the sport of racing. And Bubba Wallace is a great guy, and he's got all the support from NASCAR and the drivers and things like that. And But this 43 car that will run in Martinsville is a lot different from the 43 car that Richard Petty used to drive. Certainly. So this is it's very, very interesting. There's going to be a lot of people who pay attention to that car running around the track. Especially, boy, could you imagine if he won?
Oh,
holy moly!
First of all, it'll be outstanding if he won. Second of all, for the NASCAR fan base, as you pointed out, I mean, it was pretty slow to become integrated as one of the
still very slow.
Yes, one of the slower. For him to have that car in front of the eyeballs of the fans this weekend on TV, it's going to be pretty impactful, because that's not something regularly seen in the NASCAR circles at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it will send a pretty good statement. And has he said if that's going to be the way he'll drive for the rest of the year, or just this weekend?
I have not seen that. I haven't seen if that's going to be permanent or anything like that. But I'll look into it, and I'm not sure. But we certainly know Martinsville, and but that's a big deal in racing.
It is, and it's probably not getting the coverage that it might deserve, because NASCAR doesn't generally get a ton of coverage, especially not right immediately pre or post race.
Yeah.
We're on Wednesday here. So it doesn't normally get that same type of coverage, and it's a big deal because of the sport, because of where he is showing this car, using this car in front of the crowd that he'll be in front of. That's and I'm talking viewership, not necessarily at the track. It is a big deal. It really is.
It's a big deal. 122, Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford, the JB and Goldwater Show. About 10 minutes, and we'll be joined by Corey McCartney over in Atlanta, Georgia, and we'll talk a lot about this baseball stuff that is ongoing. News on Zion Williamson. This is not shocking. Looks like they're basically are going to pull direct evidence, I guess is the word, from FBI documents, and basically say, because of this right here, we need more information. So they're trying to utilize this against Zion. They're trying to use it against Coach K and Duke to basically it's part of fact finding for getting Zion Williamson to testify that he accepted benefits, or somebody on his behalf accepted some type of benefits to play at Duke, which would have deemed him ineligible throughout the entire year.
And if you go through the document that came out, I guess it was today. I mean, I saw it this morning. It's pretty damning. There are some quotes in there from Nike reps, I think from Adidas reps as well. There is some talk of money. There is some talk of alluding to money. There is some direct conversation about money, and then some other talk clearly referencing a negotiation going on between two sides, and whether or not Zion is going to, whether or not we got him or someone else. Is it dead in the water? Is it still? And that was one of the terms. Is Zion dead in the water? No, he's still at the dock. This is stuff we haven't seen yet from the Zion side. We've heard the allegations, but we haven't yet seen this level of proof. And Zion continues to get in hot water. I don't know. There's very little that can be done to Zion. Saying Zion's in hot water.
The only thing he'll have to do is write a check. That's what they're suing him for, is money.
Yes.
This is more, as it pertains to the sport, it's much more impactful and hurtful to Duke.
Yes.
It actually is. That's what it's all about. This ain't going to affect Zion at all.
No, but as this former agency goes after their money, in the process, I mean, this is how mad they are.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to take down everyone associated with you.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it to get our money because you're not going to pay us our money.
Right. And they want $100 million.
Yeah, and so far they're pretty ruthless. I mean, they keep having an answer for Zion's attorneys and how they're trying to, stay it off a little bit, and the agency that wants their money keeps coming back with more.
And generally, I would like to think, I'm speculating here, but in instances like this, there's some behind the scenes, there's some type of offer to settle, and if that is the case, I'm speculating, if that is the case, either the offer has been way too low, or they're saying, forget that crap. We got you nailed, dude. We're going to keep going, and you're going to have to talk.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes. We'll follow up more on this throughout the week. Some news from Charleston Southern that is fairly new news. Charleston Southern head baseball coach Mark McMillan, who was just hired a couple of weeks ago from Ole Miss, he has just hired Matt Dendecker to the staff at CSU. Matt Dendecker was a sensational talent in the outfield with the Florida Gators only a few years ago in the SEC. So he is now going to join Mark's staff. So a heavy dose of Southeastern Conference is going to be in North Charleston heading up the Bucks baseball program, and soon we'll have to get Mark on our program and stuff like that. But that is great. Great news for them.
A lot of SEC in Charleston. I mean, you got Blake Cooper right down there at Riley Park for the Citadel.
And a guy named Chad Holbrook over at the college.
Right. So
I think it just goes to show
it helps
you,
recruiting. No question.
This is a quality area. I've said this for a while. CSU's they're a sleeping giant. They've got it. They've got what it takes to get there. They just got to get there now. This is also new news from Charleston Southern football. All their kick times have been released. Except for three. One of them is at Arkansas, and that's because the SEC will release that time October the 3rd. Two dates not released yet. Halloween at Monmouth and November the 14th at Mercer. But their first game of the year, when they host North Greenville, will kick at 6 o'clock. Their second game of the year, they host Furman in North Charleston, will kick at 6 o'clock. And their third game of the year, when they travel right downtown to take on the Citadel Bulldogs, September the 19th, that will also be a 6 p.m. kick at Johnson Haygood Stadium. So, that first of all, happy that rivalry is being played. Second of all, happy it's being played at night.
We see a lot early in the season. Citadel, Charleston Southern, they do their best to play at night early in the season because it's stupid hot. It's not an easy schedule right there for Charleston Southern. Fine, you got North Greenville, get the D2 out of the way. Furman should be one of the best teams in the Southern Conference this year.
Yeah.
The Citadel is believing that they can be among that group as well. Mercer should be there, and they've got Mercer at the back end of their schedule. Mercer has a new head coach this year, a guy that was virtually unbeatable in D2 at Lenoir-Rhyne. And remember, Lenoir-Rhyne is where Mike Houston got his start. So there's a lot churning out of Lenoir-Rhyne, and now that side is over at Mercer. So I expect Mercer to have a pretty good program as well.
CSUsports.com for that entire schedule. Tough 3-game stretch there, even with an off week included. Furman at the Citadel, off at Arkansas for Charleston Southern, September, early October. Tiger Woods, his boat is on the move. The yacht, the privacy, it is on the move to dock in St. Simons Island, Georgia. Also not too far from Hilton Head, where next week just so happens the Heritage will tee off. Tiger not playing in the Charles Schwab, which tees off tomorrow, but could Tiger, who traditionally does not play in this tournament, be in the state of South Carolina next week, just down the road in Hilton Head. We'll see.
If he's going to be that close, then that tells you that he could be leaning that way. I mean, the reason why he doesn't normally play in the Heritage is because it's right after the Masters.
Week after the Masters. He's always taking that week off.
Yeah.
But generally, if he ever takes his boat, if he travels by sea, generally Tiger's always there about a week and a half early before his next tournament, so he can play the course and do a bunch of stuff. So maybe Tiger will be in State Town next week.
The Heritage has a pretty good field already. Rory committed. I want to say DJ has committed. It is a good field that they already have lined up.
Yeah, no doubt. We're going to hold off on some thoughts with Reggie Bush until the end of the program. But coming up next, we will be joined by Corey McCartney. He is in Atlanta, Georgia. Corey, formerly of Sports Illustrated and of Fox Sports Southeast, Fox Sports South Central, Fox Sports South America, whatever, all of them. He's also written a bunch of books on the Atlanta Braves. He's also a Heisman voter. He's a Baseball Writers Association voter. He's very well ingrained in the sports world and in particular baseball. He's going to join us when we return, and we're going to take a look at this ongoing negotiation between the Players Association and the league. And we'll also talk about tonight's Major League Baseball draft. Only 5 rounds. Round 1 airing tonight, though. Just round 1 airing tonight. But only 5 rounds of the draft this year. So all that ahead. Hang tight, and we'll be right back.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Cisco, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family-style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, but whenever I want to keep up with the South Carolina Gamecocks or even the Clemson Tigers, I can still tune in to JB and Goldwater because they are always live, loud, and online.
And I sing hallelujah, I do believe it's hallelujah.
All right, 1:33 Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. J.C. Sherbert joined us in hour 1. Corey McCartney joins us in hour number 2. We're going to try to make sense of some of this nonsense that is going on in Major League Baseball. And, oh, by the way, there's a draft that begins tonight with the big leaguers. Corey, Atlanta, what's up, man?
I didn't know I needed an economics degree to follow baseball anymore. I was horrible at that class in college, by the way. So not stuff for good foundation there.
Dude. Yeah, this is, man, baseball's just playing with all of our emotions. One day you walk in and go, I think we're going to see it. and then the next day you walk in and go, they're not going to play. I don't know what's going on. Maybe they settle. Maybe they can find a way to settle on 80 games or something. What have you heard? What are your sources telling you? Are they closer than things appear? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the word. Is it might be a little closer than we think. From what I've heard, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this week we see something a little bit more concrete. I think a lot of what we're seeing publicly is what they want us, obviously, to see publicly. I think they're getting a little bit closer than maybe we're knowing at this point. They're going to play baseball in 2020. It's just a matter of how long is this season going to be? Are people going to be on board with it? And then, what are they going to set themselves up for in terms of actually getting a postseason together? And if we see a second wave of increase in cases here, the virus, I mean, are we even going to have a second postseason? So I think that's kind of where a lot of the hangups are at this point. But I do firmly believe we're going to see baseball in 2020.
Do you think if this deal happens, which we expect it to happen, the way that I see this, Corey, correct me where I'm wrong, but there's essentially three options, but obviously there's a lot going into this. The players could kind of win out, get their way, the owners could get more of their way, or the commissioner can step in and say this is the way that it's going to be. So which way does it go if we're going to get baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst thing that can happen is for the commissioner to step in and do that, because you got to remember we're going to have collective bargaining agreement on the table in 2021. So these sides need to show they can make something work now, or we're going to be set up to be in the same situation, pandemic or not, next spring. So I think they need to avoid that. I would not be surprised if you see the owners give a little bit more than the players do. This has never really been about Mike Trout and Freddie Freeman and those guys who are financially taken care of. It's always been about those lower level players and making sure that they're taken care of. And then at the same time, making sure these players aren't putting themselves in harm's way without, by basically just signing a waiver and saying, that there's no repercussions if they're put in a bad spot by going out there and potentially hurting people, that they're living with or they're around. So I think there's just a lot of variations there. I would ultimately think the players are going to have to get a little bit more. You're going to see the owners, if they want baseball and they want their product to be able to recoup something in 2020, to give in some.
We've seen these proposals that, as you just said, it's probably what they want us to see. But what we haven't seen in them is the health and safety measures that they'll be taking. Sean Doolittle with the Nationals has been very outspoken about that side of it. What are you hearing from that standpoint about how the procedures will work in terms of health and safety for the players?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the funny part, right? I mean, at this point you're hearing, okay, well, the latest proposal includes opt-out rights for players. If you're considered high risk or reside with a high-risk individual, you get full service and salary, and if you opt out of the season, if you're not around those high-risk people, then you will not get service or salary. It's going to be determined by the Players Association with medical experts who's part of that group. But, yeah, we're not necessarily seeing at this point, and we saw it early on where, okay, the players arrive and you've got to be quarantined for 14 days. If somebody on your team, it comes down with symptoms and they have to be quarantined, what's going to happen when you're on the road in terms of where you can go, where you can't go. Those, I don't know if those pieces of it, we've not heard more about them because they're kind of the understanding, okay, that has to be part of this, or if we just need to knock down these first couple dominoes in terms of, number one, salary, and two, what protection there is for a postseason, and then after that's kind of set, figure out how we're going to kind of work the finer tuned pieces in terms of how we approach each day on the field.
On Twitter at Corey J. McCartney. Corey joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. What about the postseason? Are we looking for an expanded postseason this year or no?
Yeah, I mean, it would be here in 16 teams is probably the likelihood. I think they're forecasting it could mean up to $1 billion in terms of revenue, for the teams collectively. Should this happen, which gets you to about $33 million per team. So that's obviously going to mean a lot of dollars coming in for those organizations. If by chance there's not a protection there and there's no postseason, I mean, there's the potential that you could see some teams, be in a situation where they're in bankruptcy. So, you think about those small teams like the Marlins and the Rays, those ones that really struggle to to generate ticket sales. And then even the teams like you think about the Reds or the Brewers, those ones that just aren't in major markets and their TV deals aren't necessarily helping them out that much as well. I mean, those teams could be in trouble. So I think that you have to be, you can understand it from the owner's perspective of trying to have some protection if they don't have a postseason, because that's $33 million laying on the table that wouldn't be there for them.
What about in the future? I mean, anything that comes into play this year, be it the postseason or any other strange quirks, could any of those roll over into next year and the years beyond?
I think the designated hitter, if it's part of this, is here to stay. I think that conversation is over. I think the Players Union has wanted that for a long time. Obviously, when you think about payrolls, there's a big difference between keeping, a seventh man in a bullpen, and I think about an expanded roster, an eighth man in a bullpen, or a designated hitter. Those guys are going to have very different salaries. They're going to be very different kinds of players. I think the union wants that additional piece there to be able to keep a guy like, we talked about Josh Donaldson for the last year around the Braves, and this is a guy who longevity becomes that much more of a concrete thing for him when you have the designated hitter in both leagues. So I think that's coming, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
I mean, I could say that for somebody I know very well, Justin Smoke. There might be a day where he's with the Brewers now, and hopefully he'll play a bunch up there. But yeah, absolutely. Corey, interesting conversation is maybe starting to kind of be had about this, because the financial side of baseball. You look at the rest of the leagues and revenue share and things like that, all these other professional leagues and how they operate. And Major League Baseball obviously has the strongest players union in the country, maybe the strongest union period of any business in the country is the MLBPA Players Association, that union. Do you anticipate any changes in the future in how they share revenues between the organizations and the players, salary cap or raising the floor, things like that, and raising league minimum, but also implementing a salary cap, anything like that in the future that could prevent some of this negotiation down the road if we ever have to go through this again?
Yeah, I mean, I think an issue with baseball and what's always set baseball apart is obviously that contracts are completely guaranteed. So if you're horrible, you're going to get paid. If you get hurt, you're going to get paid. And that's always what has set baseball apart. So I think as long as that's a part of it, I think the salary cap is probably not going to happen, because I think the players want to maintain that guaranteed salary, and I think that's always going to be something they're never going to balk at. So I think that's always going to be what separates baseball from the other sports. That's what when you're the kind of kid that has multiple opportunities, what league do you go to? I mean, that's always part of the conversation as well. So, I think it's going to be something where we're going to have, there will be carryover in terms of, some aspects. I don't know how much, from a financial standpoint we can really take from a time period where we have a pandemic. I think at this point you're just trying to how do we make this thing work? Who's going to take who's going to feel the less pain, and let's just get out there and play baseball.
How about the players? Are we expecting? First of all, this is a great conversation because it's so positive towards the fact that we're probably going to see baseball, which makes me very happy, and probably both of you also. But will all of the players participate? Because we've heard, obviously, that maybe some would opt not to. What are you hearing about all of the players?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it, right? I mean, a lot of these guys, have pregnant wives that they're concerned about, or kids with with health issues, or they're around elderly people who have health issues. We've heard Clayton Kershaw say he doesn't want to be away from his family like that if they're asked to basically be quarantined for the duration of the season. So I think that's going to be a big part of it. I mean, that's why it sets it up so interesting. I was having a conversation with Drew Waters, he's one of the Braves' top prospects, about the potential of, okay, if there's no minor league season, this for you creates the opportunity where you can go up and get some service time in a situation where that may not have happened when we have larger rosters. That's what this is going to create, is those younger guys getting a chance to get that service time and get to free agency a little bit faster. That's going to be the flip side of not being able to potentially see some of these stars who are going to say it's just not worth the risk for me and my family. So it's going to be a little bit of a trade-off. I think from the players' union standpoint, this is a good thing if you have these bigger rosters and these younger guys who are getting that service time. It's ultimately going to add more money to the pot. But yeah, it does hurt baseball if we're not going to have some of these major players. And, the hope is that that most of them are out there. I was watching Zach Wheeler yesterday, get some work in up here in Metro Atlanta. So, the guys are ready. They're raring to go. It's just a matter of when.
1:44 Wednesday afternoon here on the JV and Goldwater Show. Corey McCartney joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. All right, so Corey, people maybe have forgotten there's a draft. The draft is actually happening, but there's only 5 rounds in it, and it will begin tonight. I think they're just airing the first round tonight.
Yep.
So this is interesting, right? I think that there are actually more eyes post draft on baseball than pre or during this draft, because they want to see how this draft is going to impact the future of the sport. With only 5 rounds, it's going to have an impact. You got other things in play here. They're eliminating minor league teams, and there's a bunch of stuff going on in baseball right now, and it would take us all day to try to figure out everything here. But the future of the sport, is it safe with where we are with 5 rounds, and what will the future look like of the Major League Baseball draft?
Yeah, I think next year you're going to be back to what we had before, with a much more expanded draft. I don't think it's going to go beyond this year. I think this is such a different situation. You've had so many, because they're going to have 5 rounds, and after that it's basically a free-for-all for all the undrafted players. You can sign them for $20,000 each. Basically it becomes like recruiting at that point, trying to, figure out how a guy's going to fit in your system, trying to, if you're a player, where do I have the best opportunity for? We certainly know this is going to be a very college-heavy draft. It was going to be a college-heavy draft before that. The debate between numbers, 1 and 2, between Austin Martin from Vanderbilt and Spencer Torkelson from Arizona State, that was the debate regardless of how many rounds it has. But a lot of those guys, those high-end high school players, are they going to get picked? Are they going to end up having to go to college? And then there's just a lot of variables at play here. I think the one thing though is you always have those guys, and I was kind of looking through this from a Braves standpoint. You always have those hidden gems, right? You think about, the Braves taking a guy like Kevin Millwood in the 11th round in '93, or Dusty Baker they took in the 26th round in 1967. This draft isn't going to have that. We'll have some of those undrafted guys that get picked, and they'll make their impact. But that's going to be the flavor missing from this draft, because, again, it's going to be so college-heavy. There's no debate at the top, and then it's just a free-for-all after those 5 rounds.
What does that do for teams that really need to restock their farm systems? I'm a Nationals fan, and in order to create the team that won the World Series, the farm system is depleted, and that's putting it pretty nicely. With only 5 rounds, teams like the Nationals trying to rebuild their farm system have to go about it a different way. This could impact those type of teams going down the line 2, 3, 4 years, couldn't it?
Yeah, but I think you're going to see teams have much more of a focus on the international pool of players, because that doesn't change, right? Because you're going to have fewer players who are going to want to sign for $20,000 as opposed to, there's some massive high school talent here in Metro Atlanta. Jordan Walker is a guy at Decatur High School who's committed to Duke, and he's expected to be a late first to early second, the mid-second round pick. If he slips to the 3rd round, does he say, I'm going to Duke? I'm not, and then that money, that just becomes a lost pick, and you get a comp pick for the following season. I think you're going to have a lot of situations like that this year, where these guys just aren't going to go. They're just going to have options in a weird year where there's minimal money at play and $20,000 for these guys in signing bonuses. I think the teams are going to be much more inclined to put their focus on where the talent level isn't changing, and that's in the market outside the United States.
Braves have picks at 25, 97, 126, and 156 as of now. Who are you hearing that Atlanta takes in the first round tonight?
Righty Bryce Jarvis out of Duke.
Ooh, good one.
And this is, the Braves, they have a small bonus pool money after they ended up having to forfeit their 2nd rounder to get Will Smith. So they're looking for upside on this pick. His stock went up big time. He's been a guy that's been at driveline baseball. Added 10 miles an hour to his fastball. An older college junior, he's 22 and a half today. So this is a guy who could, you can get him below slot value. He could really fit in there nicely, with those young arms, those projectable arms the Braves have. They've been trending towards college guys anyway, so this makes a lot of sense for them. If they do end up going a high school guy, though, Tyler Soderstrom from California, another catcher. They were depleted a little bit before last year when they got Shea Langoliers from Baylor in the catching department. So I think you could see them add a little bit more baseline there if they don't end up taking Jarvis.
You bet Langoliers. Any chance that we see him in the big leagues this year with with a condensed season, with a shortened season?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think you're tons of guys like him. Think about those high level prospects that they have. I think a lot of Williams Contreras, another catcher who, Wilson Contreras' brother. I think you could see him as well. Especially when you think about the fact that you have some aging situations there at catcher. With I know Darno's new to the Braves, but Tyler Flowers has shown some wear and tear these last few years. And if you're playing multiple double headers and you're trying to cram a lot of season into a short amount of time, I think that's a prime opportunity for a guy like Langoliers to come up and make an impact.
Anything else of note on tonight's Major League Baseball draft? So, and you've always got a good little nugget, something we don't know about.
I'm excited to see who goes one. I think this is a great debate. I mean, Spencer Torkelson is just the power numbers this guy put up. I mean, not a game from Austin Martin. This is one of those 1-2 deals. I'm not saying it's this is in the NBA with you go Kevin Durant or Greg Oden, but I think we're going to look back on this and see the Tigers have a lot and the Orioles have a lot hinging on these high draft picks of theirs, trying to make some ground up as a franchise. I think this is going to be a massive night for those two teams.
Is there any chance that the minors will play this year, or to some degree, and if not, how will the teams handle moving forward guys who get hurt and having an extra set of guys ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. You wonder, do they do a lot of simulated games down at their complexes? How do you kind of fit those in? Because the fact of the matter is, there's going to be a lot of people who are who have hinged on that money from those minor league facilities, and taking that away from them, I don't think anybody wants that to happen. It's just I hope they find a way to have it, because I think minor league baseball is just such a part of our fabric. It's a lot more accessible for many people, and if we get fans in the stands, I think those situations where less fans is going to be a little more optimum for some people. So I really hope they find a way, because you're right. I mean, where do you rehab at? I mean, if you're not doing it within simulated games, I think that's going to be. These are, again, like you said from the get-go. These are all those little tiny pieces of this deal that we don't know yet, because we're all just so consumed with a start date, and players' health and how much are they going to be paid. All
right, final question before we let you run. Which team has the best opportunity to have the most productive draft? I guess I don't want to say who has the most draft picks necessarily, but how this sets up for certain teams. Is it Baltimore? I think they have 3 picks in the top 40, maybe. What team are you looking at and saying, oh, they could really make a dent in their organization starting tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the easy pick there. I think it is the Orioles. I mean, think about last year having the number 1 overall pick and getting a potential superstar there at catcher out of Oklahoma State. So I think they have to get this right, because this is they cannot attract free agents to that organization. They've had a really hard time with that. Going back to a guy like Will Clark signing there back in the day, Rafael Palmeiro, trying to get those guys to come there. They need, this team in particular needs the draft to strengthen itself, because they've been in a bad way for a long time.
Yeah, interested to see where they go with that number 2 pick as well. Do they take the best player available? Do they go with a big power arm, someone like maybe Emerson Hancock, almost in your backyard over there, coming out of Georgia, throws 200 miles per hour? Big old kid. Yeah, the Lacey kid from A&M, that kid can play. So, Corey, as always, thank you so much. Wonderful stuff, man. We'll try to get you back here pretty soon and try to recap some of this stuff. And once we get a decision from baseball, I'll be able to look at that going forward. On Twitter at Corey J. McCartney. He is in Atlanta, Georgia. Corey, thank you, bud.
I appreciate it, guys.
Very good stuff. If you don't follow him, you need to follow him on Twitter. Corey is incredibly well connected. He's got some great books out on the Atlanta Braves as well, inside the Tales from the Atlanta Braves dugout, stories from inside the locker room, things like that. Very good stuff. Yeah, 12 right now projected, 12 of the top 35 players from the SEC, and that does include commitments, which is quite frankly no shocker because this league is very, very good. But Carmen Mlodzinski right now projected maybe a SUP pick First rounder into SUP. I'm looking at ESPN's updated projections. They might have him actually dropping down to 35 here with the Colorado Rockies. And then the
just where pitchers want to go.
Yeah. And the highest Clemson Tiger is in the second round. It was Sam Weatherly, the lefty who played for Monty Lee. And if he goes 54 overall, he would go to the team that also drafted Monty Lee. That is the St. Louis Cardinals.
The Nationals have been targeting a Georgia pitcher that they almost targeted once before, coming back off injury. Are they still projecting to go that route at, where are we, 22?
You know what? That is I
forget the name. I want to say it's Agnew, but I'm not positive of the name.
You said it 22. Let me just look at it. Watch it. No, they've got them right now projected to take Austin Hendrick. He is an outfielder who is committed to Mississippi State.
Oh, a high school
from West Allegheny High School in Pennsylvania.
Wow. Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see. This stuff, you never know.
No.
You never know with baseball.
The baseball draft is by far
no doubt.
the hardest one to even
It's not even
guess.
close.
Yeah.
It's not even close. There's no. You might be able to nail the top 3 or 4 sometimes, but outside of that, no doubt about it. I tell you what, if Cincinnati takes Heston Kjerstad at 12 from Arkansas, oh boy, will he love playing in Cincinnati. You talk about a lefty with big pop and the ball flies there. That would be a great fit for him. All right, did find out today also that Reggie Bush is now reassociated with Southern Cal. They put out this big 2-minute video. Welcome back to town, Reggie. If I was Reggie, I'd be like, screw you, man. Are you kidding me? Like, I know I broke the rules. You also broke the rules. You got rid of me. Can't even come on campus. He went last year as because he worked for Fox Sports, and Utah happened to be playing in the Coliseum. That was the first time you've been there. But now, because of the new rule, you can only do this for 10. You can only disassociate for 10 years. 10 years is up. Oh, welcome back, Reggie. Welcome home. I think I'd be flipping the bird to some of the higher ups. Not to the fans, to some of the higher ups at Southern Cal.
Yeah, it's just such a weird rule. Like, you disassociate, but then after 10 years to say, oh, now it's fine.
You can come back now. Like, do away with that crap. Look, I know cheaters are cheaters. I get it. He cheated. He broke the rules.
But you helped him break the rules.
But he broke the rules because you let him break the rules.
Right.
Like, I get it. I mean, look, I understand. Okay, just whatever. We'll try to get into a little bit more of that tomorrow. But now we started on a good note today. We have to finish on a good note. Everybody's favorite segment. And today, 5 of them. What day is today?
5 of them.
Happy National Iced Tea Day.
I am not an iced tea guy. Sweet, unsweet, doesn't really matter.
I'm a sweet tea guy.
Well,
I don't really drink it anymore, though, because it's bad for your health. But when I was a kid, I drank it like water.
Don't worry, bourbon's great for your health.
Yeah, Happy National Herbs and Spices Day. I'm a big herbs and spices guy.
Important. I mean, if you're going to be cooking, grilling, smoking, whatever, you need them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a good day.
Happy National Black Cow Day. To all you black cows out there, we love you. Celebrate and stop.
Chick-fil-A says hello.
Happy National Ballpoint Pen Day.
Really? A ballpoint pen has its own day?
It has its own day. I'm telling you, I'm going to deem December 12th Happy National Jamie Day.
Great.
It's coming.
No one's going to stop you.
No.
Just put it on that calendar.
Just apply.
Put it on Wikipedia, and then it's true.
And then it's true, yeah. And finally, Happy National Egg Roll Day. Are you an egg roll fan?
I mean, come on. Yeah. Everyone's going to eat some egg rolls.
I like good egg rolls, not the crappy ones that, some Chinese places you're like, nah, what'd you do? Just heat this thing up?
Yeah.
Make my egg roll.
I've been kind of craving probably more Japanese food than Chinese food. I haven't had it since the whole pandemic. Haven't had any sushi or anything like that.
I have to talk to my wife. That's a good idea. Maybe we'll do that tonight.
Yeah.
Happy National Iced Tea, Herbs and Spices, Black Cow, Ballpoint Pen, and Egg Roll Day here on the JB and Goldwater Show. All right, nearing the end tomorrow. Whoa. Tomorrow.
I love it when you get excited about what's coming up in the National Days.
There's 3 tomorrow. A couple are pretty good. And then Friday. Friday's a good day.
It should be. I mean,
Friday's a good day.
It's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah, Friday's a good day. It was a good day today.
Yeah, it was fun.
J.C. Sherbert and Corey McCartney, two of the true pros at what they do. We are very – I don't think people understand this. We are incredibly lucky to have them.
Yeah.
When we get them. They are really, really good, and I'm glad we've got them. We are going to speak with Scott Glaze tomorrow. Golf is back, so we're going to let Scott help us out in that department, and who knows what else we'll come up with. Delaware, fix your baseball leagues. The hell's going on up there?
If you missed the beginning of the show, go back and listen to it. It's JV was fired up. It's just for Delaware Youth Baseball. He had a point, but it was funny.
For Darren Goldwater, J.C. Sherbert, Corey McCartney, I'm Jamie. Have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow with big baseball news from college breaking now. See you then.